If you are thinking about what it's going to be like going forward with whether you have to rebuild or if you're waiting for the mail, what's going to happen, you could just say, peace out, California. We're going to give South Carolina a try because State Farm is still here. Like a good neighbor.
State Farm is there.
In South Carolina. Hey there, we are your Gen X Realtors here in Low Country. I'm Angel.
And I'm Dan.
This is part 2 of a 2-part series where we're covering leaving California and some of the things that are really rough in California versus what they're not here in South Carolina. And here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm just going to call out the elephant in the room. This information is all over YouTube, but what it's not is from Californians, former Californians, right, and now South Carolinians. As we were doing our homework for this video, we need to see whatever else you guys are finding out on, whether it's on podcast or whether it's on YouTube. And I'm like, hey, these people have never lived in California. I'm a native of California and you live there for
over 30 years,
30 plus years. So we know firsthand how lovely the state is, but just how rough it can be and how expensive it is. Good Lord, every time you turn around, you're like, what's happening?
Well, it's weird when other people are bashing it, having never set foot in the state. It's like, how, you're going off of like rumors or old wives' tales or,
some random website, which is, I'm sure, got value, but in our opinion, it's always better to have somebody firsthand. Like when you get a doctor referral,
boots on the ground.
We're going to cover this video as homeowners insurance and property taxes. So homeowners insurance is rough in California.
And not to bring up a sore subject, but they had all those fires in Pacific Palisades, and people's insurance either wouldn't cover the extent of the damage, or because of the fires, some people can't even get insurance anymore.
Or they were canceled right before. I mean, you just heard tragedy after tragedy. I'm sure we're not informing you of anything you don't already know. But here's one of the things that before the fires, we knew firsthand was, there are parts of California that you can't even get homeowners insurance in unless you go with the California Fair Plan, which is Gabby. I'm not a fan, straight up, I'm not gonna lie, but he loves his social programs. And California Fair Plan is one of them. So there are parts of the state that there are no insurance companies other than that one that you can get to cover your property.
Well, and for example, State Farm left California.
Yeah.
They said, you know what, it's too expensive to do business here.
They're not writing any new policies. Or they're having to cancel. But State Farm is still writing policies here in South Carolina. Even with hurricanes, even with tidal flood insurance and all of that. So again, this is not just to bash California, but we know what it's like to pay. I got a call from a client about 1.5 years ago. She said, I'm bundled, and it wasn't State Farm. She was bundled with maybe AAA or one of them. And she said, we have our RV on there, our car, and the house. And what do I do? Because they just sent me a notice saying I have to unbundle or I get canceled. And so she had to unbundle, get new.
That's not going to be cheaper.
No, right? So then she had to get new insurance for her RV. They had to get new car insurance. And then she was hoping that she was going to be able to get the homeowner's insurance with that same company. But if not, and she's not in a fire zone. She was just in the middle of 123 Main Street house, nothing fancy, just in the middle of the neighborhood. That's the kind of stuff that's happening. So it's just this slow being pecked to death by ducks kind of thing.
Well, when we were living there, our homeowner's insurance was on the verge of $2,000 for a year.
Again, no pool, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, middle of the neighborhood. And we didn't have anything, we had solar. Homeowners insurance is becoming a right of cancellation all across the nation. So your lender, when you get qualified to buy for a house, as we know, they're going to go, okay, homeowners insurance, property taxes, and your loan payment. Homeowners insurance is going to be first and foremost. If you can't get homeowners insurance, or you have to get one that's crazy high, you might not be able to afford the payment. Those poor people in Pacific Palisades, in LA County, that beautiful area, if they want to rebuild, if you're that person and you're watching this and you want to rebuild, you will have to have solar panels, whether you want them or not. Doesn't matter if it's going to like give you a tax break or, based on the square footage.
Electric appliances.
Yeah. You will not have gas. It would have to be, everything has to be, your windows, everything has to be energy efficient and,
Well, an earthquake safe, with all the strapping and the engineering.
And you will not have the house that was built from 1964. You will have the house that's built in 2025, 2026 with all the quality
regulations and standards. And
you can really spend a lot of time being in that. Or like we always like to say, the windshield is bigger than the rear view mirror. If you are thinking about what it's going to be like going forward with whether you have to rebuild or if you're waiting for the mail, what's going to happen, you could just say, peace out, California. We're going to give South Carolina a try because State Farm is still here. Holla, if you're a State Farm. They still like a good neighbor.
Yes.
Like a good neighbor.
State Farm is there.
In South Carolina. There are several other companies, Allstate, Farmers. Farmers tends to be on the higher end, like nationwide, but State Farm is still here writing policies. And that's the thing that I think a lot of Californians, we think, oh, they have hurricanes there. Oh, they have hurricanes. And people go, well, you have earthquakes. Been in several of them. Like, it's over and done with. Yeah, there's drama after the fact. But like a hurricane.
Well, the problem with an earthquake is you don't know when it's going to come. At least with a hurricane, it's like, there's a good chance there's going to be a hurricane and you got 3 days to figure it out, to board up your house or to leave town or whatever the case may be.
Fire up the generator.
If it's an earthquake, it's like, you'll know when everything's moving.
And it's a little bit like being chased by a turtle because you know a long time in advance, like, oh, it's coming. Here it's coming. It's going to be here. It might be here. You know what? It's going to be here on Tuesday. Nope. It's going to be here on Thursday. But it's all everybody talks about. So like, there's no, I wonder if we're going to get a hurricane. They know. Yep. They know long in advance.
Yep.
So then you can decide if you want to bug out. And then you'll need to make sure your homeowner's insurance covers not just rain that falls from a hurricane, but waters that rise after a hurricane.
Water is accumulating is different than water that falls. So you got to make sure your policy includes flood in addition to like rain or hail damage because they're different.
Yes. And again, we are your realtors when you move here. We are not insurance agents. Right. We are not tax professionals. We are just speaking from
personal experience.
Yes, when we lived in California to now that we live here in South Carolina. So again, we want to make sure we're being very clear. We are here to help you buy your next house here, and we want to absolutely help you do that. You can get really mired down and feeling, just dissatisfied on so many levels, and you're like, it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah, I can move forward to something new.
Yeah.
Maybe different, maybe scary, but could be the best decision you've ever made.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
California Fair Act, one of my clients described it as the Obamacare of homeowners insurance. Yeah. So it's not really going to cover much. So you've got to get additional.
Well, and you can't guarantee the rates. The rates could shoot up on a whim, and then that's what you have to pay.
Yeah. And nobody needs that mail. Everybody wants fun mail. You don't want that mail.
No.
Okay. So now let's talk about property taxes. So in California, property taxes, as we know, Proposition 13, you're supposed to have a property tax no more than 1.5% of the value of your home. So that protects a lot of homeowners that have been up in the Bay Area or in, older Orange County or older San Diego or some, just like some of those really neat homes in Santa Ana, like, just some really beautiful properties that their assessed value is from it's not going up at the same rate as like buying a house today, that value. But one of the things that California does, and we know this again firsthand, is we have propositions and we have bond measures and we have all sorts of things that affect everybody statewide. And they say, oh, it's just going to go in your property taxes. And for those on the podcast, I did air quotes because just in my property taxes ends up being very significant.
Well, and they'll say like, oh, it's only $10 more a year, or it's only $20 more a year, but those propositions don't go away. It's not like, okay, we're done.
Right.
We're good.
They don't sunset.
We got enough money now. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen.
Yeah. So when you look at your property tax, we pulled our old property tax, and we were in Kern County. We were in Bakersfield when we moved from California. So if I'm looking at some of my property taxes, I'm looking at a school district bond from 2012 that we were paying. And I'm also looking at I don't even know, something or other debt bill zone. I mean, again, who speaks government? But you're looking at some of these bills that are from 2016, 2017, in some of the other properties that I've helped my clients buy, and you're seeing something from like 1989 and 2004. It's like, well, is that ever going to leave? So by the time you're done, you're paying way more than 1.5% of the value of your home. I mean, our home was like, middle America, $450,000 home. We weren't, again, no pool, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,800 square foot house, like 2-car garage, like it was pretty standard. And so when we moved here, what is our property tax?
Our property tax was like cut to a third of what we were paying in California.
Yeah.
You get excited opening the mail in South Carolina.
Oh, it's fun mail here.
You're like, oh, the electric bill. Oh, the property tax bill. It doesn't hit you over the head. And you're like, well, I got to work extra shifts, or I got to have money set aside. It's like, okay, it's another bill.
Have you seen these types of things in our bills here?
Put it this way, not to the extent. Like any of the California bills, the line items will blow your mind compared to South Carolina.
Okay.
So you're not getting inundated with this charge and that tax and this fund and this bond and this.
Yes, the bonds.
It's different.
Okay, so we don't want to just be, again, Debbie Downer, or who would you be, Doug Downer?
Womp, womp. I'm Doug Downer.
But again, we're speaking as former Californians that are now South Carolinians. And just in case you hadn't heard, Move Buddha just had a new study that came out, because not only are we big fans of living here, but apparently a lot of people are, because in 2025, Summerville, South Carolina, you will find that it is the #1 place to move to in
2025.
For
this year.
For 2025. It's where everybody's moving, cities and suburbs.
Yes.
And it was all across the board. It was Pacific Northwest. It was, of course, Frisco, Texas. Meridian, Idaho was #2, and Summerville, South Carolina.
Yes.
Was #1.
We did it.
And listen, if you have questions about what it would be like for you to move here and how that would all roll out for you and your family, please feel free to give us a call. All you've got to do is go to calendly.com. The link is in the description, both on the podcast and on the YouTube channel.
Yep.
Calendly.com/MyGenXTeam. And that will give you our calendar, and we will be able to have a brief call with you where we can kind of walk through, like, are you still just dreaming? Are you 6 months out? Are you a year out? Are you 90 days out? Like, all of that changes how the conversation goes. And that's 100% up to you, not us.
Yeah. And we will help you, whatever your scenario is.
Yeah, we've done it. I'll tell you what hotels to stay in if you're moving across country with your dogs.
Yep. Yeah, we'll give you tips on driving animals 3,000 miles. It can be done. Gen X fun fact for part 2 of this series: Aquanet hairspray.
Oh, I can still remember the smell. Best.
When do you think it came out?
Oh gosh. Well, let's see. It's got to be the 60s.
Yep. It was introduced 1961. In 1964, it became the top-selling beauty aid at that time. And why do you think it's tied to Gen X and the 80s?
Big hair.
And why, though? Why did people want big hair?
Closer to God. The higher the hair, the closer to God.
That's a good point. The hair bands.
Oh, yeah. Poison.
You had Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, White Snake,
Poison, Tommy Katane. Every dude loves that one.
Bon Jovi.
Yeah.
Everybody had giant hair, and it was like, yes, I want me some of that.
Yeah. So anyway, we are your local Gen X realtors here in Low Country, and we are here to help you. We would love to hear from you. Leave a comment down below, or if you're if you're listening on the podcast, you can shoot us an email at genxrealtorslc@gmail.com.
Yes.
So we would love to hear from you one way or the other. Yes, no, maybe so. And we will see you on the next one. But here's the thing. If you have not watched part 1, go watch part 1 now, and then you'll kind of get the whole
gist of everything.
Yeah. And again, we know what we're talking about. We are former Californians, now South Carolinians. You're not going to find that on this platform.
We lived it.
Firsthand. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, we'll see you soon.
See you next time.